You're listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, episode number 4, 13 Easy Food Upgrades for Kids. On today's show, I'm talking about tiny tweaks you can make to the food you serve your child to improve its overall nutritional quality. These food upgrades are so easy, you'll wonder why you didn't think of these yourself.
Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey there, it's Jill Castle. Welcome back to the Nourished Child Podcast. Today we are talking about easy food upgrades for kids. I love this topic because, as I've told you before, I'm always getting asked about how to improve kids' food, and I'm also getting asked about what the best food is for kids. So I thought I would compile some of my answers and put it into a show that outlines some super duper easy food upgrades that you can make today, or even just the next time you go to the grocery store, that will improve the overall nutritional quality of your child's diet. Now, not all of these food upgrades will work. Your child might reject some of them or might turn his nose up to some of these switches in his diet, but some of these will work for you, and they're certainly worthy of trial and error to see what does work. The funny thing is, I was extremely motivated today to record this episode. Today's my birthday, and I am also on the very fast and upcoming horizon of taking 2 of my daughters to college next week. So I really wanted to record the show before I started into the frenzy and flurry of packing boxes and loading cars and setting up new bedrooms and saying tearful goodbyes. So I wanted to be in the right frame of mind while I recorded this show. I talk to my kids all the time about food upgrades and the variety of different choices that are out there in the world that they can make when it comes to food. And especially, my college kids are on their own. They're making 100% of their food decisions all by themselves, day in and day out. And this is important to me that they know how to make good choices. And some of the ways that we can help all kids really learn about making good choices is to exemplify what those good choices are in our day-to-day meals and snacks. I'm always getting questions about food, and many of these questions start out with, what's the best fill in the blank food for my child? I'm not big on pitting one food against another or clearing out the pantry so that there is only healthy food there, or even just eliminating from the home unhealthy food altogether. I don't really find that works very well for children in the long run. So I come from an angle of let's teach children how to live with all of these foods. And as a parent, let me help you understand how to strike the right balance. I am a fan, however, of using some smart modifications or simply just upgrading the food that your child enjoys eating. Because in the long run, I think your child needs to live with and learn to navigate all the foods in his world. It goes without saying that today's modern food world certainly makes eating a nourishing diet somewhat challenging. Number one, there's food everywhere you turn. I hope this is getting better. I was at the dentist the other day and I noticed that they finally got rid of the lollipops that they had in a big bowl at the checkout counter. Yes, lollipops at the dentist, and they finally swapped those out for stickers. So I think that there's a swell of change on the horizon. I hope it continues. Number 2, convenient processed food is not always chock full of nutrition. Yes, it's colorful, it's appealing to look at, it smells good, but many times the nutrition does not measure up on the quality meter. Sugar, food dyes, preservatives are found in many, many foods. And really, thanks to modern technology, we can make our food last a very, very long time due to the additives that are included. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I do appreciate that I can keep a box of cereal for longer than a week in my pantry. I can stockpile canned beans, whole wheat pretzels, and other nutritious foods, knowing that they won't perish before my family can consume them. But I also understand and realize that sugar, food dyes, and preservatives and other additives are fairly prevalent in our food supply, so we need to know about them and to help our children moderate their intake of those foods so they're not taking over their diet. I also acknowledge that we are all human, and for many of us, our own food routes direct us to tasty, quick, and satisfying food. And that might translate to the very foods we are trying to curtail or upgrade for our children. In other words, we ourselves may not be eating the food we want our kids to grow up eating and loving. So again, I believe we need to teach our children to be food navigators because they're living in this world of complicated food. And as they age, they are making their own choices outside of our homes, just like my college girls are doing. So there needs to be a certain level of knowledge that they are accumulating about nutrition. Again, one of the best ways to do this is to upgrade the foods you offer to your child so that they see day in and day out a role modeling of the types of foods that are healthy for them to eat. So what are the best foods to upgrade? What tweaks can you make that will inch up nutrition? And how can you do it? I've got several ideas that I want to share with you. Some target food selection, like cereal, for example, and other ideas cover food preparation. Don't worry, I'm going to make a summary sheet for you because I don't expect you to remember all of this. So enjoy the show, sit back, relax, and know at the end that you can grab and download this list. Just be sure to go to the show notes at jillcastle.com/podcast to get them. This is show number 004, so it will be www.jillcastle.com/podcast/004. Okay, let's get started. First up to bat is cereal. So cereal is an easy upgrade that you can do for your child. So what's the worst thing about cereal? The worst thing about some cereals is that it just contains a whole lot of sugar. And there's also a good side to cereal. Cereal is conveniently packed with a great source of nutrients that your child needs for normal growth and development. So for example, cereal is oftentimes fortified with iron and folate and other nutrients that are important to your child's growth and development. So we don't want to throw cereal out of the diet because it can provide such a great source of essential nutrients, but we do need to be careful with the amount of sugar that we serve our children from cereal. And because cereal can also be an awesome source of fiber, I have a few guidelines that can help you pick out the right cereals for your child. So when it comes to sugar, I like to suggest that families choose cereal that has sugar between 5 to 10 grams of sugar per serving. The lower end is best. So those are going to be cereals that really have no sugar added to them. Things like Rice Krispies or Cheerios or Wheaties or shredded wheat. Those plainer, low sugar types of cereals are best. I also like to see parents choosing at least or more than 3 grams of fiber per serving. So again, you can look on the nutritional panel on the back of the cereal box or on the side of the cereal box, and you can see what a serving size is, and you can actually read the grams of sugar and the grams of fiber on that panel. Now, what if your child is hooked on sugary cereal? One of the things that you can do is take that sugary cereal he loves and mix it with a plainer variety in a 50-50 ratio. You could mix regular Cheerios with Honey Nut Cheerios in a 50-50 ratio. That will reduce the overall sugar contribution to your child's diet. My dietitian colleague and co-author, Marianne Jacobson, has done some of the groundwork about cereal in her post titled 10 of the Best Cereals for Kids. I'll include the link to that post in the show notes, but it's a great read and it gives you real cereals and name brands that you can include on your shopping list, so it makes it a little bit easier for you. Next up to bat, number 2, is granola bars. Who doesn't love granola bars? I don't really know too many children that don't enjoy eating them. They are super convenient, but they tend to be a little overconsumed perhaps, and even abused in some children. When I say that, I'm really talking about the sugar and the fat contribution from granola bars. So you have to watch, again, those labels. I have a post on my blog that really outlines what you should be looking for in terms of the nutrient profile from granola bars that will help you make better choices. But for example, I like to see less than 10 grams of sugar, more than 3 grams of fiber, and less than 5 grams of fat. All of that packaged into a calorie contribution of less than 180 calories per serving. Now, I know that sounds really complicated. Don't worry. I have a free download at the end of this podcast that outlines all of these nutrient highlights that you want to look out for. The other thing that you should be considering when you're purchasing granola bars is watching out for too much protein, especially the types of bars that target the young athlete. Because in certain situations, too much protein can be dehydrating, and that's not good for an athlete, and it's not good for a young growing child either. The other thing is that some granola bars, when you look at the nutritional profile, they resemble more of a candy bar than a healthy snack or breakfast replacement. So watch out for those granola bars that are dipped in chocolate or covered with candy. That should be a red flag that is a food item that's going to look more like a candy bar than it does a healthy snack or a healthy breakfast option. Number 3, yogurt. So when I work with clients, and even when I think about yogurt in my own brain, I think about what I call the hierarchy of yogurt. So when we move from the most nutritious to the least nutritious in terms of nutrition, when we look at yogurt, what is the most nutritious, the most healthy? It's going to be plain yogurt. That is not going to have any added sugar to it. It's going to be a good source of protein, a good source of calcium, and generally a healthy yogurt option for your child. Now, the reality is a lot of kids aren't eating plain yogurt, and I recognize that. But if you're starting out with a young infant or young toddler and just getting started with solid food, remember their palates are blank. They don't really have a preference one way or the other for sweetened yogurt or for plain yogurt. So it's a perfectly great time to start out with plain yogurt. After plain yogurt, the flavored yogurts are the next healthiest in my mind. So yogurts that are vanilla flavored or banana flavored, they don't have as much extra sugar added to them. Then we move up on the scale to the fruit on the bottom versions or the blended versions. Again, yogurt overall is a healthy option for your child, but the fruit on the bottom or the blended yogurts tend to have a few more calories, and that generally is coming from sugar. Last, the least healthiest yogurts in my brain are the ones that serve candy on the top or candy on the side that you mix in. So again, remember that, choose, if you can, plain or flavored yogurts, and you can always add mashed up fruit to sweeten the yogurt up a bit for your child. But that's a healthy upgrade that you can do. If your child is currently eating the candy on the top or on the side types of yogurts, scale back to maybe the fruit on the bottom or the blended yogurts. Just one little swap like that can just make that option a little bit healthier for your child. Number 4, juice. So 100% juice is the best, healthiest version of juice you can offer to your child. And we know it can be a stand-in for a fruit serving, but there are limits as to how much juice is healthy. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics advise that you keep 100% juice to a limit of 4 to 6 ounces per day maximum for children under 8 years and 8 to 12 ounces maximum for kids older than 8 years. Juice drinks, juice beverages, those all in general have added sugar. So if you're choosing juice and you want to upgrade the types of juices your child might be drinking, you want to choose 100% juice. And if your child is drinking more than those limits of juice per day, think about cutting the juice with a little bit of water or sparkling water or club soda to stretch out that juice throughout the day. Food upgrade number 5 is bread. There is no reason why you can't be offering your child a whole grain version of bread, especially since we now have white whole wheat bread available. White whole wheat bread looks like white bread, but it is made from whole wheat. In fact, white whole wheat bread is made with white wheat, which is a variety of wheat that is just lighter in color and lighter in texture. Most of the kids that I know who make the switch to white whole wheat bread don't even know that they've made the change. So it's an easy, super duper easy way to get more fiber into your child's diet and to get a healthier bread option on board. Next up, pasta. Most kids I know love pasta, and if your child doesn't, that's okay too. But many kids like white pasta or pasta made from refined flours. But what we want to do is try to build in more whole grain pasta options for kids. One way you can do that is mix half and half versions of whole wheat pasta and white pasta. Or maybe you can even get away with going cold turkey and switching over to whole wheat pasta. When you put a sauce on the pasta and you cook it well, oftentimes it's easy for kids to not recognize that there's been a switch there. But if your child has a more sensitive palate, try to go the half and half route where you're mixing the whole wheat versions with the regular versions. Again, simple, super simple upgrade. And if your child doesn't go for it, that's okay. You've got other upgrades you can focus on. Sweet treats. So the best thing about sweet treats is that you can make them at home. And I used to do this all the time when my kids were younger. I would make a tray of brownies on Sunday, and I would cut them into 2-inch squares, wrap them up in saran wrap, and stick all of them in a big Ziploc freezer bag and throw them in the freezer. I would do the same with cookies. I would make chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin cookies, and I would make them small, petite in size, and I would take 2 of them and wrap them and portion them out and throw them all in a big Ziploc freezer bag. And what made it so nice was that I would just then pull out a serving and pop it in the lunchbox. The great thing about making sweet treats at home or making them homemade is that you're using real ingredients. There are no additives or colors or preservatives. You can actually even cut the sugar down a little bit. I used to cut the sugar by about 1/4 cup in cookies and brownies and quick breads, and you really couldn't tell the difference at all that there was less sugar there. So it's just a quick little modification in the recipe. And the other great thing, again, as I mentioned, is you can control the portion sizes and you can prepackage them and freeze them and pull them out when you want to use them. Fruit. Fruit is another way to upgrade your child's diet. I like to see families include fruit at every meal. Oftentimes we see fruit in the lunchbox and maybe at breakfast, but kids need about 2 to 2.5 cups of fruit each day, and it can make it a whole lot easier to reach that milestone if you include fruit at all those main meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and even at snack time. Not only will this help upgrade your child's overall diet, it will also round out the meals so they're more balanced, and it will add a filling factor to meals, which can curtail extra snacking later on in the day. How about vegetables? Well, because I work with so many kids and families, I know that kids don't get enough vegetables in their daily diet. And I also know the research, and I know what the research says, and it says that kids don't get enough vegetables in their daily diet. So we need to probably focus a little bit more on how we can get vegetables into our kids' diets without, of course, pressuring them to eat them. Most kids need about 2 to 2.5 cups of vegetables each day. Of course, infants and toddlers are going to need less, but because of that 2 to 2.5 cups each day, veggies should be showing up often. One reason that kids aren't getting enough is that they perceive that vegetables don't taste good. If you're making them uber healthy, for example, you're only steaming them, or you're serving them raw without a dip, or you're not including flavorful ways to serve vegetables, your child may be less inclined to eat them. So I'm not saying layer on the butter and layer on the salt, but I am hinting at building in more flavor into the vegetables that you serve to your child. You can do that by roasting vegetables, roasting them, which is awesome in the fall and in the winter, or really any time of year. Brings out the natural sweetness of vegetables. So does grilling them. So in the summertime and in the spring when you've got your grill out, throwing them into a grill basket or skewering them and roasting them on the grill also brings out the natural sweetness. Using herbs and spices can flavor up vegetables. And yes, certainly using fats like olive oil or butter, salad dressing as a dip, and a sprinkling of salt can all bring more flavor into vegetables and help your child be more inclined to eat them. Remember, you can always trim back the fat and the salt after your child has developed a liking for vegetables. So try to get more veggies into your child's diet by perhaps upgrading the way you serve them. Snacks. Snacking is big in kids, and I'm going to do a show about snacking coming up pretty soon. But one of the things that you can do immediately with snacking is just upgrade the types of foods that you offer at snacks. Popcorn, for example, or homemade gorp, or pairing food together so that there's always a protein source offered, or always a fiber source offered, or always a healthy fat source offered. Because I believe snacks should be real food and less of the packaged, boxed items that kids tend to eat. Because when they are real food paired up together, such as yogurt and fruit, or cereal and milk, or whole grain toast with a nut butter spread, when you serve kids snacks like that real food mini meal makeup, kids are more satisfied, they're getting more nutrition, and you're contributing to their overall nutritional diet and their health. So I have tons of snack ideas on my website, free downloads. You can go to jillcastle.com, go to my blog, and on the right side of my blog, I have healthy snacks for teens, I have healthy snacks for athletes. You can go under the freebie tab and you can find healthy snacks for toddlers and healthy snacks for kids. So I have several downloads on healthy snacks, and I always make sure that the examples I give do showcase a pairing of protein, fat, or fiber within the snack itself. Another idea, make your own pizza. Ordering out pizza is one of the most frequently ordered foods for a convenient night of eating that families make in the United States. But you can make your own pizza, and when you make your own pizza, you automatically upgrade the health quality. So you can get a ready-made crust, you can spread tomato sauce or use pizza sauce, or sometimes I even use spaghetti sauce or tomato puree as my sauce. And then you can pile it up with vegetables. You can pile it up with turkey pepperoni or turkey sausage. Again, those are going to be lower fat types of meats that you can put on top of the pizza. Let your child choose his own toppings and build his own. That will create more buy-in for actually eating what he made. But definitely making your own pizza can be a nice little upgrade, a health upgrade to the overall quality of your diet, particularly if you find that you are relying on takeout pizza frequently, like once a week or so. So when you're dining out, the other upgrade you can do is skip out on the kids' meals and go for the real deal. It's what you want your child to eat anyways, so instead of chicken nuggets, get a chicken breast. Instead of macaroni and cheese, get pasta with marinara sauce or order it plain with butter on the side. You get the idea. Because the adult portion of the main menu will be too big for your child most likely, split it in half with another child or a parent. I used to share a meal with one of my kids when we went out. The portions at restaurants are more than often oversized, and oftentimes they're 2 to 3 times the portion that an adult would require. So it helped me to downsize the supersized portions, not only for my child, but it helped me for me also. So think about that. That's an easy way to upgrade. And you do get away from those kids' meals that aren't always the healthiest or best options for your child. The last food upgrade I have for you is trying to use the dinner bar. And I'll talk more in this show about the dinner bar, but to give you an idea of what it is, it's basically an assemble yourself meal that your kids can do. And what you do is deconstruct the main entree. So for example, pizza is a good option to do the dinner bar because you just put the toppings all in separate bowls and you let your child assemble their own pizza. Or tacos. You separate everything out, the meat, the toppings, and you let your child assemble their own. Salads work well with this too. You have a base of lettuce and let your child put their own toppings on. Skewers work well as well. So if you're grilling out, you might have chicken and a variety of different vegetables, and your child can make up their own skewer. The great thing about the dinner bar is that your child takes ownership for the combination of that main entree. You take ownership of including the ingredients you want to have showcased for that meal, but your child puts them together as he likes. And I've used it for years, and I can tell you with 4 different kids, oftentimes I would do a dinner bar and each child would have a very different looking meal, but they were all getting very similar ingredients. They were all eating the meal I made as well. There are a ton of dinner bar ideas and recipes on my blog. Just go to jillcastle.com/blog, and in the search box, just type in dinner bar and you will get a whole bunch of ideas for your next dinner bar. And remember, the dinner bar is a great substitute or alternative for going out to dinner. So remember, when we're talking about food upgrades, we are not talking about cutting foods out of your child's diet, but what we are talking about is making little tweaks that upgrade the food your child eats. And all these little tweaks add up. Restricting or pulling these foods out of your child's diet completely may drive the focus or desire for them. And that's another episode. If you want to hear more about that and you didn't hear about it on episode number 3, What's Your Feeding Style? You can go to the Nourished Child Podcast, episode number 3, and learn more about restricting and how that plays out in your child's diet and how that plays out in your child's eating. What I would love for you to do today is try to pick out 3 food upgrades you want to do this week for your family. 3 that will be pretty easy for you to implement, or 3 that you know you need to be implementing. You've been thinking about it and you just haven't pulled the trigger yet. So pick out 3 and make those swaps this week when you go to the grocery store. I'm so curious to hear what those swaps are going to be. Let me know. You can email me at jill@jillcastle.com and let me know how that goes for you. And if you have other ideas for food swaps or food upgrades or food tweaks, let me know. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget that at the end of the show notes, you will be able to download a free handout called Sensible Food Upgrades for Kids. There will be a box at the end of the show notes. You just click on it and you can get that download right away. So, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe to The Nourished Child on iTunes. Share the show with someone you care about, or just be social and throw the link on your Facebook page, your Twitter feed, or anywhere else you like to hang out. I really, really appreciate you being here and listening. If you've been here more than once, I am so grateful that you came back. And again, I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love for you to write an honest review about the podcast. And even more than anything, I would love to hear what you would like to hear about, because that will help me craft shows that really have meaning for you and that really will help you as you raise a healthy child. As always, be sure to grab that little one of yours and give them a big squeeze.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child, inside and out.